Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I'm doing a Disventure Camp tier list again. It's so exciting, I haven't done this in so long. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Golden Goose Productions channel. Today we're going to be doing a tier list of every single Disventure Camp All-Stars episode. This is going to be a wild ride. Before we begin, I just want to point out, I am going to be fairly biased, or pretty darn biased, because I am was a proofreader for DC All-Stars, and DC1 actually, while also being the voice actor for Kai, and also because I joined the fandom pretty early on, literally DC2, I'm the voice of Kai, of course, I will have different perceptions than someone who joined, let's say, during DC All-Stars itself, or someone who joined during DC1. Whereas I feel like a majority of the fandom really gravitates towards the DC1 characters because that's the one they experienced live. I'm in that very, ever-growing, ever-shrinking niche of people that got to experience the DC2 season live, so I'll be more biased towards ones that show more DC2 content. That's just how it is. I think, this season is one where, based on perception, maybe age, maybe when you join the community, based on what you want out of these kinds of shows, it's gonna be a very different, experience, and that's why it's so divisive, and I don't think that it's entirely accidental. I do think that it was, always gonna be something that a lot of people will debate over, okay, is this good? Does this make good TV? Is this something that we should innovate for? Is this genre worth, sticking to the standards we set way back when? Or is this a good step forward into developing the genre into something more? I don't know. It's up to you guys. That's not up to me. What I will say is that please, in the comments and everything, please be respectful. This is my opinion. It's okay if you disagree. Please let me know. Just no hate, no passive aggression, none of that. We're all mature people here. And if you disagree, let me know why. I want to understand why some people perceive things differently, and, we can all come to a middle ground, reach consensus and whatnot. But without further ado, let's get to the tier list. Very exciting. So we're going to start with episode 1. And also, wait, one more thing. Because I'm a proofreader, I got to but I got to read all these episodes back to back to back to back over the span of, I think, 4 months? I know the last 3 episodes took a bit longer, but over the span of 3 or 4 months, compared to you guys, where you guys saw the episodes over 9 months. So obviously my experience is a lot more, short-term, I guess. It's a lot more, condensed, whereas you guys really had to wait a really long time, which is weird, because, most projects of the same genre, like Battle for Dream Island and Animate Insanity, they take, 3, 4, 5 years to come out. Danganronpa projects, they can take up to 6 to 10 years, who the heck knows? So this one, coming out in only 8 months, really spoiled. OddNationCartoons, Jared, Robert, Michael, Jace, everyone, they work really hard on the show, so I really hope you guys can support them on Patreon in any way that you can. Also, they have DC4 coming soon, Season 4. I'm not part of the proofreading team for that one. I'm gonna get fired. I'm on a leave of absence, just to be clear. So I'm going into it blind as well. I'm very excited for that. It looks really fresh, really clean. I'm really excited for what the new staff, cast, crew, voice actors, what they can bring to the table. It's all very exciting, but that's enough. That's enough as some people call it, ONC meat writing, quote unquote. Let's get into it. I promise I won't be passive aggressive this tier list. I promise I will be mostly calm, I guess. Anyway, episode 1. I think that at the time when episode 1 came out, when I read it, I just thought it was amazing. I thought, oh my god, these interactions, DC2 and DC1 interacting, this was something we had been dreaming about since 2022 when there was the beta. Of course, we were like, oh my god, what if Aiden and Tom interact? That'd be so crazy. I don't know why that was the first duo that came to mind. We've really been imagining that since the early days, and that was extremely exciting to get to finally see it after years of waiting. I remember specifically in DC2 episode 7, which, I infamously did not like back then, and now I'm okay with it, but I was like, oh my god, Tess, this character, you booted her, and you're, it feels like it was set up for All-Stars, and yet, back then, it felt so far away. This was, December 2022, so here we are, January 2024, it's finally real, it's finally the All-Star season. That was so hype, getting to see these casts come together. We get to, see a, recap of where they were over the time skip, and, a time skip, I feel like, was kind of, a weird point of drama, because it's oh, we want to see the growth throughout the time skip, but at the same time, the show's framing device was always, an annual sort of, show that has seasons every once in a while, so it's yeah, we're not going to see the interim. That's not this kind of show. It's a competition show. We're going to see snapshots of the characters' lives throughout the years. And I thought that was really cool to see how these characters develop, and a lot of them, some of the bigger ones being Alec and Gret, of course, had changed throughout their season. They really got to grow and learn from their mistakes, and they got to see the reaction to their first seasons. Allie is another big one that you could tell that she was different going into this because of the reception she got in DC2. Anyway, yeah, at the time, this episode was not nearly as light as I would have hoped. A lot of people said, oh, it's okay, it's kind of fillery. It's kind of crazy because way back when, in January, February, I remember the first few episodes were not seen extremely positively. They were seen like, oh, they're okay, they're fine, maybe a bit boring. But like later on, as, more and more episodes came out, people really looked back at it and they were like, what, these episodes aged a lot better. I like these episodes now. Which, like, same with DC1. DC1 is now regarded as, like, this big masterpiece project, when I don't really think it was viewed that way when it was airing. When it was airing, like, there was a lot of division going on, but now most of that is gone. I don't know if fandom perception evolved, or if the bigger critics left the community, or now it's like, you can view DC1 as one big picture. But, yeah, it's funny to me how the first few episodes of DC All-Stars really aged better than what, people were perceiving at the time. And I wonder if the later episodes will experience that in like a few months or, a few years even. Who the heck knows? Who the heck knows? Anyway, episode 1, in my opinion, was like a really solid episode. And granted, it's a lot of, expectations that we've been building up for a year. Most people who come into this community aren't going to experience that anymore because you can watch seasons 1, 2, and 3 all in a row. But like, just to see the gradual evolution of all these characters, and, there's a lot of cute stuff going on. Like, I did not like Oliver in DC2. I thought he was pretty great here, because he gets like a little amount of screen time. I thought Jaden was cute after the DC2 community just kind of ripped apart. They had a love-hate relationship with Jaden, and now it's like, oh, so cute. My hubby is very sorry. It's great. And just to see like the seeds being planted for a lot of the season was just really cool to watch in real time. Getting to see the dominoes being set up, and the little you guys knew, you guys didn't know at the time, but I did. That was just awesome. I'm gonna. I don't know, I can't put an S tier because at the end of the day, it is just a very casual, calm, recappy sort of episode. But I'm gonna give it A. I think it served its purpose very well, and I quite enjoyed it. I look at it very fondly, and like, I'm a little traumatized because at the time people had divisive thoughts when it first came out. Anyway, episode 2. Episode 2 is an episode that I really think was like, where it was like, bam, this is the All-Star season. We're gonna get rid of James first. We're gonna have this big drama with Jake, and Fiori's gonna barely survive, and Hunter's gonna like not like her, and Ashley is gonna be the strategic queen that she is, and all the seeds were really there, and Alex is gonna plant the seed of doubt in Jake's head. It was just a lot of really powerful stuff. I think this is like one of my favorite eliminations because it has that cross team dynamic where Alex sort of plants the seed of deception into Jake, and that's what really gets him to inevitably vote out James in the end. I thought that a lot of the interactions were very cool. There's a Hunter-Alec one, which was like, oh my god, that's mind-blowing, what the heck? I never thought those two would ever interact. There's some where James and Allie are like sort of buddy-buddy, and I'm like, that's so cute, because DC2 characters, in DC2, they barely interacted with each other. So to get to see them, like, having this friendship was really sort of cute, and all that. I don't know, I really liked all the team dynamics set up. There's like a Yule and Miriam scene. I know there's a scene that Emer doesn't like where Cyan team's in a cave and they're talking about stuff, and I'm like, I like that. I like stuff like that. I like getting to see big bonding moments between the cast. I don't know. I try not to think of each episode based on their eliminate. I know I literally started with talking about James's boot when I was talking about this episode. But I do think that every episode. Oh, it's raining. Great, thanks, Rain. Every episode is more than just the elimination. I think a lot of people, their takeaway for each episode is who gets eliminated, and I think it's so much more than that. Especially with how this season, in my opinion, is very like, it feels like a full circle. It feels like almost everything is there purposely to set something up later. And I think that's great. I think that, it's less episodic than what you're used to, but it's something that I really look at fondly. And I think episode 2, if you look at it from the lens of, oh, James just kind of went, but then you look back on episode 19, 20, and how James and Jake eventually, make amends, and he learns, that, oh, maybe this Jake isn't so bad after all. It's really getting to see Jake's gradual evolution, and, like, you don't know it at the time, but that's what episode 2 was setting up in the beginning. So I don't know. I really like episode 2. This is an episode that I really love the challenge as well. This is like, in my opinion, this is probably one of the best challenges. So it's kind of a shame that it like got to such a high so early. But this is an awesome challenge. I love the little montage with the animals. I don't know. There's just a lot of positivity going around. I love this episode. Episode 2 is great. And also, like, in hindsight, yeah, I like James. James is a cool character. In DC2, he was just kind of boring. Didn't really get to do a lot, got a lot less screen time than you'd assume, but this episode, in one episode, James really became, like, one of my favorites, And I think that's justified based on episode 11 and 19 and 20 and all that stuff, where James really does a lot more. And he really solidifies himself as, oh, wow, this character is actually pretty cool. Episode 3 is next, and episode 3 is one that I don't remember that much. I know in the podcast, Emer talked a lot about how it's a great gonorrhea episode, and as someone who never really cared about that storyline, I didn't get it at the time, but after Emer's constant talking about it, I realized, oh, there's a lot of substance going on here. It's a swimming episode. It's fine. I don't think the challenge is anything amazing, but it is nice to see a different background. Like, they go underwater. That's pretty cool. We get to see Jake and Ashley bond more. We get to see Aiden and Tom bond. And I know a lot of people have problems with Aiden and Tom. I don't really. I'm not. I don't relate to it, but I understand the appeal that it's two gay guys that aren't like dating or anything, but they are friends. And I know Jake, thinks they're like romantically intertwined, but like I get the appeal going on. They're just like big brother little brother dynamic. And I think that's really cute. I'm not gay and I don't have brothers myself, but like I understand that it's very wholesome. Right, I don't think there's a whole lot of depth, but, later on it gets better. I'll say that. Episode 3, I don't really look at it that critically. I'm not going to put it in D tier. I'm going to put it in C. It's just kind of there. I know a lot of people really like the Lake boot, and I like that Lake goes, because I might get a lot of hate for this, but I always thought Lake was super generic and just kind of, fanficky, I guess. It's like, there's not a lot of substance there. Her arc finished in DC 2. It's like, it's whatever. If you're a fanfic writer, that's great, it's free real estate, but, I don't know, I never really thought there was much of substance there. I always thought her boot, while it does make sense, and it's very shocking, it's a little too convoluted for me. I know a lot of criticism was thrown out that DC likes doing shock boots, and I disagree. I don't think DC ever really tries for shock boots. I think that it was always building up towards, spoilers, but it was always building up towards the Rhea win, right? You can't have Gret or Gabby or Alec win, because this was always going to be winning isn't everything. That was the storyline they were going for. But I think that the Lake boot, ironically enough, despite being one of the more celebrated ones, this is the one that it's like, this is a shock boot. This is the shock boot. It's one of the only times this season where it actively tries to go for a shock boot. Mechanically speaking, and this is a lot later on, I don't think Gabby was, designed to be a shock boot. I think that in order to justify Gret's rise to power in episodes 15, 16, and kind of 17, you do need Gabby out of the picture for her, independence to go all out there. But yeah, episode 3, it's fine. I don't think it's bad or anything. I don't think any of... Okay, there's one episode that I think is significantly weaker than the rest, but, I think this is, one of the weaker ones for sure. Episode 4, on the other hand, I love this challenge. I love any challenge where it's a 1v1v1 scenario and the characters get to really, bash into each other. It's also very inspired by Survivor, which I love. I don't know, I really think episode 4 is weird because it's such a strong episode, but the main takeaway at the time was Tom's line to Jake, real classy, Jake, which, this is the episode where you're not supposed to think about Tom and Jake that much. It's the episode where they got put on full blast. It's like, come on, this is your break from Tom and Jake. What are you doing? What are you doing? He said one line. I love the drama with Miriam and Alec. I thought that, in DC1, Miriam... it was a missed opportunity in episode 8 where the hosts exposed the villain alliance in DC1 episode 8. I wish that a character like Miriam or Ellie got to do it, so I was really happy that Miriam got to do that in this episode. I thought that was awesome. Exposing the villain, the creation of the villains alliance, the creation of the villains alliance and the exposing of it. I know Emer has mixed feelings on it, but I do think that Miriam kamikazed at the end, did everything she could, and I thought that was great. A great showing, and this is really when people look back on Miriam as a character and you know what, she deserved to win DC1. It's crazy to think, but back then in December 2023, people were iffy on Miriam winning, but this episode I feel like a lot of people got turned around. They were like, yeah, she deserved that win. She's great. Yeah, I love the challenge. I love Hunter going easy money. That was funny. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't really rewatched these episodes since September 7, which is when the finale came out. So my memory's not the greatest, but yeah, all around a very solid episode. I love the challenge. I love the little drama going on. It's great. I'm gonna put it B tier. I don't think it's as good as episode 1, and again, I'm blanking a bit, but I do think that overall it's a pretty solid episode. Episode 4 was one that I wasn't sure if people would like it. I underestimated how much people would like the Villains Alliance. Again, because it is mostly DC1 characters, and that's kind of my blind spot. I don't know how people perceive the DC1 characters, because I'm more of a DC2 kind of guy. But, a lot of people love this episode. This was one that I was like, I'm not sure, there's not a lot of new interactions. I realized that doesn't, new interactions isn't, as make or break as I made it out to be. given that episode 1 is the big, like, you know, new interaction sort of episode, and that one was lukewarm for a bit. But yeah, episode 5, this is extremely biased on my part. I love episode 5. I think episode 5 is, like, the best episode so far. Maybe an episode later in the tier list will beat it. But I loved episode 5 so much. And the reason, and it requires a bit of context, but in DC2, the Hunter, Tess, and Allie plot that I always, you know, bash on in DC2 was very, very messily handled, I feel. I feel like we never really got to see why they like each other. There were so many blank spots. It always felt like it's a plot that was always in the background, yet the show treats it like it's in the foreground. I feel like at the end of the season, a lot of the conflict is off screen. It's very messy, and they never felt like major characters. In Hunter, Tess, and Allie's boot episodes in DC2, none of them felt like they were important to the episode itself. This episode really put all 3 of them front and center. We got to see a lot of their characters and how they functioned, and I love that so much. I loved how we really got a deeper dive into the Hunter and Allie love story. I love how Hunter was really a major character this episode. I feel like this is like one of the few episodes of DC All-Stars where the booted character is like pretty much the most important of the episode. We got to see, you know, him really come into his own, and I know a lot of people at the time were really disappointed with Hunter in DC All-Stars. Firstly, I think DC2 Hunter is a lot more disappointing. And secondly, I do think that this was always like sort of an arc for him where he eventually learns to, chill out, get out of the game, you know, don't let it destroy you, which, of course, you know, is ultimately the thesis statement with Rhea. But also, it's sort of like this reverse arc where you think Hunter is kind of treating her badly, but then you look back and you're like, oh, Allie, you know, later on, you're like, oh, Allie was always the problem. Allie was more of a problem than Hunter. You know, he's stressing out over it because he cares so much about her, and he's seeing Allie get ripped apart because she just wants, you know, to appeal to the audience, you know? Why do you let the dumb internet comments online, you know, tear you apart, you know? Does it not matter what I think? And I think that is one of the most interesting parts of DC All-Stars for me, is just to see that reception, like how willing are you to bend over backwards for your fans online? Something that like Allie and Rhea and Gret and all these characters go through. I think it's really great. But yeah, no, I love episode 5. Thumbnail, not so great, like, you know, needs a bit more to the thumbnail. But I loved episode 5, man. It's such a good episode. I rewatched that constantly, and it's just mind-blowing that Hunter, Tess, and Allie actually get to be important characters in an episode for once. It took 2 years, but eventually we got it. No, I don't know. You know, the challenge is like, it's all right. Villains Alliance, pretty good. They get exposed. Some pretty good scenery going on there. Overall, just outstanding episode. One of the best. And I know that Mr. Jace Hansen, this is like one of the episodes where he really, really, really got to edit a lot of it. And I'm excited for what he brings to the table in DC4. Episode 6, I think this one is overrated. I'm gonna be honest. I think this one's over. Like, I'm still gonna put it. I'm gonna put an S tier still because, like, I think the songs really make the episode. I think that a lot of the drama is great. It's weird to me that a lot of people were really buying into this, like, you know, the piggyback drama with the kiss and, you know, Jake being all jealous. And I remember this was around the time the fandom was like, I don't like this story. And it's like, why not? You guys liked it so much in episode 6. This is like one of your favorite episodes. Like, what? It just lasted a bit longer, I think. In people's minds, it lasted more months than it should have. But at the same time, that's how the release schedule was. So, like, to a viewer who's binging it, you know, the Tom and Jake drama lasts from episode 6 to around episode 12, right? To an average viewer at the time, that is 3 months. That is a bit too long. But to a future viewer, it's only, like, maybe at most, like, 3 hours, maybe 2 hours even. But I never understood that. I was like, you guys liked it so much in episode 6. Why is the drama, Tom-Jake drama, like, eclipsing y'all? Especially episode 4. It's like they didn't do anything in episode 4. And it's like, and then Tom and Jake were such a big part of the fandom's consciousness. I don't know. I always thought that was weird. I remember, you know, a lot of episodes I would I would look up some of the names on, like, Twitter or Discord or whatever, just to see people's opinions on them. And I remember it was always, like, so much Tom and Jake stuff and barely any, like, Hunter or James or Aiden or whatever stuff, right? I was surprised. I was like, you think there'd be a bit more. You think there'd be a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. The DC1 community is massive, and the Tom and Jake fandom is also massive. So, like, it does make sense. Like, ultimately, even if you aren't part of it, you do have to acknowledge that it is one of the major parts. I'm not part of the Tom and Jake fandom. I don't, like, they're not in my top 5 favorite dynamics of the season, but I have to acknowledge that they are, like, objectively what gets the show clicks, what is the most popular. And yeah, sure, there should be more diversity. I agree with that. But, you know, just because you don't like it doesn't mean that the other people don't exist, right? Like, I'm happy that there was a lot of Jake content. I'm happy that Tom and Jake get a spin-off. I'm happy for their fans. Like, even if I'm necessarily not part of that fandom, I am happy for those fans. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Yeah, no, I love episode 6. I think a lot of drama. There's a lot of like stuff going on with like Ellie that a lot of people take problems with, but I do think it's justified in a sense that like she's a different character after DC1. Like that really messed with her brain. And eventually, you know, as you may see, Ellie does eventually recover from it. Episode 19, 11, 21, especially where she goes to Rhea, who, I always thought Rhea and Ellie were on the same trajectory. And Ellie has that big like fuck you moment. It's like, hey, look, fuck you can keep your money and shove it up your ass, Rhea, or whatever. Anyway, I have like no problems with this episode. I think that this episode really works because the first 20 minutes are dedicated to the teams like working together and all that. Before the songs come up, it's this big build up. And I remember, and I hate the thumbnail because it really spoils the big like shock of the episode. I remember when the Patreons were watching it, like it was this big shock. It was like, oh, they're not gonna kiss, are they? No, Jake's gonna react so badly. It was like almost watching a horror movie where people were terrified of it happening. Sadly, the thumbnail spoils it, but man, it was a really fun episode. I really love episode 6. I think the boot is kind of like, the boot is, Connor Boot. It's probably like the most part of the episode. But at the same time, he does come back, so I mean, it's good. I think a lot of people are like, no, he was missed potential. He had so much to offer, and he does come back, so that's good. That's good. Yeah, episode 6, a little overrated in my opinion, but still a good episode. Still a really great episode. I don't have much to say about episode 7, on the other hand. I think it's fine. I think, in hindsight, it's not nearly as bad as I made it out to be. This was always, like, my least favorite, and it still will be my least favorite. I'm putting it in D. I still think it has fun moments. I just wish it was more focused on the contestants. I think that, Ellie and Aiden are the thumbnail. They don't really get to do a lot this episode. Fiore being the boot is kind of like... This was the one that I was like, this is going to be, like, more of the underwhelming ones because it's just the villain gets outnumbered. I did think it was interesting how, despite me thinking it was obvious, a lot of people, even down to the last few minutes, were like, is Allie going home? Is Jake gonna, pull a fast one on Allie? He didn't. He voted for Fiore. Ashley and Jake voted for Fiore, and she goes home, and it's like, it's alright. I mean, Fiore, a lot of people are like, why is Fiore even in the season? She didn't really contribute much. She just was a lamb for slaughter, and it's like, no, I think that her surviving the first 2 vote outs shows how, like, crafty she is and how she can adapt even in a bad situation. Sadly, being exposed in DC1 for being like this supervillain, really like she ran out of luck basically. I think that's cool to see like the storyline of how she managed to survive a few times, but eventually her her fate caught up to her. But yeah, no, I mean episode 7. I have heard that for big Tom Jake fans, this is a great episode for them. Great as in like, oh no, it's devastating and all that, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't really have a problem with this episode. I put it in D, but like I don't think it's like awful or anything. I just think like it's the most like meandering sort of like fillery episode. This is the only one that I would say is like a big fillery episode. I think every other episode has some kind of purpose. That's not true. There's one that I'm like, there's one that I'm a bit more iffy on. We'll get to that when we get there. Episode 8, I think, is one that is weird because it did have a lot of positivity at the time, but pretty quickly it faded. And I think that the 7-8 combo is where a lot of drama started to happen. But I think 8 is like, I like it for what it represents, even if you can kind of tell that a lot of things are shortened a little too much. I think the challenge is a bit iffy. I did say that when I read the script, I imagined that it would be like more of like a horror haunted mansion sort of spaceship. There's barely any lights flickering. It's like, oh no, the spaceship's gonna crash. We're floating in space with like no oxygen or whatever. I don't know. And then you see it. It's very bright and colorful and like Among Us. And it's like, okay, fine. That's my misinterpretation. That's not anyone's fault. That's me misinterpreting. So I thought it was gonna be like closer to horror than bright lights, I guess. Challenge is kind of stupid, but I don't have anything bad to say about this episode. I think Ellie goes home, and there are a lot of Ellie fans. But I do like what it represents. Is Tess stepping her foot down. She was always criticized for being very, throws her vote away, gives up in the game, always quits and whatnot. But to see her be like, no, this game is bad for you, is great. And I know a lot of people have problems with that. So does Gabby. Gabby in the next episode also has problems with it, so it's like it's acknowledged in the story. But I like how it's sort of what prevented Ellie from being Rhea. Ellie and Rhea, both very similar characters, as I mentioned before, but really this move, getting Ellie out of the game for the sake of her mental health, really, you can see her positive growth throughout the rest of the season. So, I mean, I think there's that. At the time, you think, oh, they just got rid of Ellie for the sake of it. She was just a villain all the way through, and that last scene with her and Gabby, that's just like, damage control so that Ellie's not a total monster. And it's like, no. Like, Ellie was always gonna get better. Like, what? I don't know. I'm trying to think what else I can say about episode 8. I don't remember it nearly as well. This episode had a lot of host moments. That's what I'll say. I don't know. I don't think episode 8 is all that great, especially like what it could have been. I feel like when people say wasted potential, I usually scoff at it, but episode 8 is one that I'm like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I don't think it's awful, but I'm gonna put it like above episode 3. It's still C tier though, but yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I think the Aiden and Jake stuff is cool in hindsight, where it's like you look at them fighting and you're like, you know, eventually they make up and become friends. It's great. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Episode 9, weirdly, like, I don't know what to say about episode 9. Episode 9, I could not get a grasp of what the fandom thought of episode 9. A lot of people liked it, a lot of people hated it. I don't know if the people who hated it for the boot. I'm like one of the bigger Test fans, and I thought it was still a great episode. I loved episode 9 so much. You know, I loved challenges that are like 1v1v1, and this episode was really like that. There was a lot of chaotic stuff going on. There was that big Rhea and Gret scene that I think really helped sell Gret to a lot of people who were like, oh, you derailed Gret, you know, now she's just like a pathetic excuse. And like, yeah, Rhea acknowledges it in the story. She's like, yeah, what happened to you? You used to be so cool and stuff. What the hell happened? Like, you didn't kill DC1 Gret. That was the whole arc. The whole arc was that DC1, that Gret is not acting like herself anymore. She's acting like this pawn to Yule. And eventually, obviously, she's going to overcome it. Like, I think everyone saw that coming. But, well, I hope everyone saw that coming. But really, that Rhea and Gret statement, where they have a conversation with each other, that's like one of, in my opinion, the most like powerful moments of the season, in my opinion. You know, I think there's a lot of comedy going on with the slip and slide and whatnot, and I do think that this is one of the best eliminations of the season. I think we can say. I don't think anyone saw it coming. I don't think it was for shock reasons. Okay, I don't like just because I don't think anyone saw it coming doesn't mean it was for shock reasons. I do think that this was really a darker season, especially after the two quote-unquote therapists, Tess and Ashley, go, you know, back to back, which I don't think is a coincidence. Really representing how the season went pretty darn dark after the first half. And I think that Tess going is the perfect representation of that, how they killed the therapist. They killed the character that, like, you know, could have solved all these problems and whatnot, you know, to her benefit or not. You know, Gabby calls her out. She's like, hey, look, you gotta stop doing that, Gabby. You know, you gotta stop doing that. Sorry, you just gotta stop doing that, Tess. You know, Ellie need the money more than anyone, and you just got rid of her. That's unethical of you. How dare you? And, like, I just love what it represents so much. I think that the double elimination was genius. It really brought a twist that a lot of people, you know, the first few episodes, there's like pretty much no twists. It's all just eliminations. But this one was the first one with a big, different voting method. And I think that Gabby going for Tess was great. A lot of people didn't like Gabby because of it, but like, you know, I like Tess, but I also like Gabby. I think they're great characters. I'm gonna put this in S tier. This is one of the better episodes. This is better than episode 6 in my opinion. But yeah, I love this episode so much. Episode 10, on the other hand, was one that I was nervous about because I thought people weren't gonna like it. It's very, 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 very Tom and Jake focused. This is like the peak of the Tom and Jake complaints. Right? This was like the peak, and I thought in my head, okay, this episode is super Tom, Jake, Aiden focused. Like it's the big drama, and they get Ashley kicked off the show basically. Like people are not gonna like that, and people mostly liked it. I was surprised. The ending scene with Crystal and not Crystal, sorry, that's the voice actress. Ashley, the performance from Crystal Dolly was amazing. That was like one of the best performances of the entire season, in my opinion. She goes home, she gives Jake a hug. She says like, "Look, you have messed up. Just don't mourn anymore. You suffer enough. Like you just gotta move on, man." You know, and I loved the shock elimination of the villains going for Ashley. You know, you think Aiden or Jake's going, but no, it's actually Ashley, the most like the glue keeping the unlikable heroes together. You have the villains who, you know, they're the villains, right, of the show, but they're competent, they're strategic, they begrudgingly work together. Gabby obviously makes her big flip after the Ellie vote out because of Tess. Like all the pieces feel like they're in motion here, and I think that's genius. And like, yeah, the Ashley vote out, like not nearly as good as the Tess vote out in my opinion, but still like one of the best. I love what it represents. Again, you know, the two therapists are now out. The season is going to get a lot darker from here. It's really, really great episode. I don't think it's as good as 9, but it's better than 6. I'm putting it here. I really love this episode. Yeah, no, it's a really great episode. Episode 11 is overhated. I don't know why I get so much hate. Like it was never gonna be like this big conclusion. The conclusions were always gonna happen in 19, 20, 21. This does feel like, oh, you know, it's part 2. You know, if let's say Hunter's elimination was part 1, episode 11 is part 2, and then episodes 19, 20, 21 were part 3, for example. This was always going to have some dangling plot threads that were going to be finished at the end of the season, so this episode got a fairly amount of hate, but like I think it's great. I'm happy for the Alec and Fury fans. The Alec and Fury fans got to see the two become friends again, basically. You know, they did the cute little fist bump, they worked together. It was great. You get to see, you know, James and Yule interacting. I thought that was pretty fun. You get to see the contrast between these two guys who were on the same trajectory, sort of, in DC2. You meet them, they interact for the first time in the season, and you get to see how different their viewpoints are. I thought that was pretty amazing. You know, and I get it. Ultimately, I get it, but I don't think this deserved hate. I think at this point, tensions were so high about the season that now we look back on, and it's like, it was a little ridiculous how much. I do think that Connor's, you know, comeback, climbing up the rope and being like, no, Rhea, you're going with me, I'm taking you down. That was pretty great. I love that. I love Connor's comeback. He was the one that most people were like, oh man, you know, he was robbed. He deserved to come back. And he did come back. I mean, everyone saw it coming. I don't get it. Like when it's unexpected, people hate it. When it's expected, people hate it. So it's like, what do you people want? I get it. You gotta have that balance. Ultimately, I understand. But like, I don't think expected is bad. I thought this was a fun episode. I'll give it that. It was shorter than it should have been. And I'm happy that later episodes were on the longer side. I wish this episode was like 5-10 minutes longer. But you know, I mean, it is what it is, and yeah, I think there was great content all around for like Ellie Gabby fans and whatnot. You just gotta, wait, it happens later. Let's give it B tier. I want to put it B tier. I don't think it's like greatest episode. I think there are problems with it, but like, you know, it's not like a bad episode. I don't think. Episode 12 is one that I don't remember all that much. I like the tiebreaker. That was intense, especially because most people thought Tom, Jake, and Aiden were just gonna coast. So losing one of them really represented, okay, plotline's done. Okay, it only, quote-unquote, plagued the first half. It's fine. I don't really remember much about the episode, but, like, Connor coming back and making it really awkward for Rhea and Alec and whatnot felt kind of badass. He has this big speech. A lot of people thought it was cheesy. Yeah, a little cheesy. But, like, you know, I know some people were like, why did Connor get it but not Ashley? And it's because Ashley is, like, around 20, 21. Connor is like 50, and they think he's a CEO. So like, yeah, if like you're more likely gonna listen to a rich CEO kind of father figure. And obviously Ashley was the big thing that was keeping Ashley and Jake from uniting. So to have Connor, you know, not be part of that drama, an outsider, a third party, helped a lot more. He has this big, you know, admittedly kind of cheesy speech, but at the same time, it does get their motivations together. They vote together, which is great. The unlikable heroes come together, and it's like, you know, are they gonna learn from their flaws, or are they gonna fail? Ultimately, that's what happens to Rhea, right? Rhea fails to acknowledge her flaws and change and grow. But the heroes, I feel like, for the most part, they eventually overcome their adversity. It's an okay episode. I don't really think much of it. I think, yeah, as I said, the tiebreaker is pretty cool. Everything else is like, I don't remember it that much. I don't know why this episode was so... This episode was like 27 minutes long. I feel like episode 11 should have been longer, and episode 12 should have been shorter, but that's okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I think... Tom going... I feel like Tom is the one character that I feel like he never maximized his greatest potential. I mean, like, you know, you could say that about Lake as well, but I feel like Lake was never much of a character to begin with. Yeah, Tom was probably the character that, like, by his elimination, you're like, oh, it's kind of iffy. And I think he gets a little better by the end, but not nearly as much as someone like Ellie or Hunter, who have, like, their arcs turn around. I do want to specify that when I mean, like, oh, they turn around later, I don't mean, like, oh, we're damage control, oh crap, we messed up Ellie so bad, we gotta fix it. No, I think that these characters were always gonna have storylines that last the whole season, where at the beginning they're kind of rough, but at the end they get better. That's how arcs work, right? But because this genre is one where when you're eliminated, that's the end of your story. A lot of people got confused by that. But I think in hindsight, when you look at it, you're like, okay, these stories were lasting the whole season. And now that 19, 20, and 21 come out, there's proof of it. Right? Tom was one that I'm like, okay, he did get better. I'm happy. He did acknowledge his flaws. He did grow as a person. But it's not... His elimination was a lot, like, weaker than I would have hoped. But I'm still happy with it. I'm going to put it in... I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it low B tier. I think it's okay. You know what? It's borderline C tier, but I'm going to put it low B tier. Like, I think there's enough good stuff that is preventing me from putting it in high C tier, but I'm going to put it low B tier. 13 is a little overrated, in my opinion, but it is, like, this big, like, epic brawl. The good guys win in the end, which might be the last time it happens this season, where the good guys win, I'm going to be honest. So, you know, I mean, like, that, you know, the satisfaction is there, right? The good guys win in the end. Lots of cool powers, lots of, like, death and whatnot, lots of violence. Jake and Aiden come together thanks to Connor's... Oh, yeah, I forgot. Jake and Aiden really... the seeds are planted in episode 12 towards their future friendship. Yeah, no, I thought that was great. There's a lot of stuff going on in episode 13 that I thought was really fun. Fight scenes, you know, they were fun. Lots of pop culture references. This is the first Michael episode. I want to specify. A lot of people on the internet go like, "Oh, Michael, he ruined his first episode is episode 14. It's so crap." It's like, no, his first episode is 13. Okay, if you're gonna bash him for an episode you don't like, you gotta bash him. You gotta praise him for an episode you do like. I feel like this is Michael's track record. I feel like Michael has way more W's than L's, in my opinion. But then again, I'm biased, so who am I to say that? Who am I to say that? Episode 13, pretty great episode. I don't really know. It has the Rhea and Alec thing, and I do want to say this here. I know I've been ranting throughout the entire video so far, but not a lot of people, but I've seen some people say that like Rhea and Alec were wasted potential. I don't think they were wasted potential at all. I think the potential was done exactly how, maybe not exactly how it should have been done, but I don't think it was wasted. Wasted implies that it was there and they didn't do anything with it. They did do stuff with it. Alec realizes, oh crap, all the flaws I see in myself, I see in Rhea. All the toxicity that I've done, I can see it in her. I'm ripping my family and friends apart. We're not compatible. I'm gonna make out with Rhea for like an episode or two, but like that's it, no more. No, I don't like this woman. I'm better than that. She's doomed. Like I think people are just sad that they didn't end up as a couple, which like fair enough, I get that. But I don't think it was wasted. I think the thesis statement was, Alec thinks at the time that him and Rhea are compatible. He realizes, nope, no, we're not. No, we're too similar, and that's scary. I don't like that. So yeah, no, I mean, yeah, they made up, and he realized, nope, she's not for me. This is too much. Yeah, lots of stuff to kiss. Aiden sees the secret, which is a funny throwback to, in my opinion, it was a funny throwback to Tyler from World Tour. I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, no, big monster. Yul gets eaten. Yul gets his karma. Yul has the big speech. Gret finally overcomes Yul, protects Gabby, which is, big setup since DC1, where, Gret and Gabby had beef with each other, and Gabby's alter, also, didn't like Gret, and they come together and realize, you know what? I like you, Gabby. You're the friend I needed in the show. I was so toxic to you back then, but, you're a true friend. Yul, he sucks. He's an asshole. Yeah, no, I mean, again, 13 episodes of Gret abuse, not fun. But, like, I would rather have the Gret... This is gonna sound so weird, but, like, it's better when you binge it, and it only lasts 4 hours, as opposed to, what was it? The 6 months of... 7 months, actually. 7 months of Gret abuse, right? Like, it's easier to stomach when it's only 4 hours, right? As opposed to 7 months of the thing. And I know that's like a weird argument, but at the same time, that's how most of you experienced DC1 and DC2, right? You were able to binge watch it the whole time. From a DC2 viewer, seeing Rosa essentially do pretty much nothing the whole season for 10 months, I guess not for the fanfic writers, but, because, blank slate. That was why Rosa was so controversial back in DC2. You don't really think about it now, because Rosa is so beloved now, but back then, people did not like her because she was meandering for the first 9 episodes, 10 months. Not a lot to write home about, but then those last 4 episodes of DC2, that's when Rosa started doing a lot. And that's when her perception changed, because future viewers watch DC2 in one bundle, like, over the span of, like, a day or two. I think the same thing will be said for Gret. I know there was a controversial storyline, but at the same time, I do think that now that you have the full picture, it ages better. So, I'm going to say this episode, a little overrated. Yeah, it's not as good as the music episode. I'm going to put it S tier, but, like, a little overrated. Episode 14, the big controversial one. I think this episode is the most dislikes, which is, like, fair, I get it. I don't think TikTok is cringe, not because I like TikTok, but because I didn't grow up with TikTok, so when I see people thinking that some of the dances are cringe, it doesn't affect me. I'm like, what is that? I've never seen that before. The WAP dance, I will give credit to that is kind of cringe. I didn't know what it was at the time, and now I do, and it's like, oh god. Oh god. I think this episode had a lot of character development. I think the Gabby boot, yeah, fine. It is a bullshit elimination. I think that could have been handled a little differently. But I do think that the main thesis statement, that being that Gabby offers to get voted out in terms of, instead of Gret, there's a big shuffle, which is not great, and, in episode 20 there's also a bit of a scuffle, maybe that could have been fixed. I get it, but ultimately, that alter thing, the alter ego, evil Gabby or whatever, was always beefing with Gret. To see Gabby overcome and say, nope, Gret is my friend, that was a powerful moment. I think the message gets a bit lost because of some, drama going on. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a great episode for Jake and Allie. Obviously, Allie screws over Jake. They try to make amends. They realize later on, oh wow, The two of us were kind of similar, even down to the dead grandparents. I don't know. I think episode 14 is a weaker episode. I'll give you that much. I don't think it's like horrendously bad, and you do need Gabby out for Gret to evolve without her individually, right? So I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put high C tier. Okay, I'll put it here. You know, Alec and Connor bonding was cute. You know, the Rhea, uprising of Rhea was like devastating and whatnot. But I don't know. I feel like once you get over the shock of like, oh, Gabby's gonna win this. In hindsight, you look at it and you're like, Gabby didn't really have a story anymore. Like, she wasn't really fighting for Ellie. Ellie in episode 11 is like, hey, chill, you don't need to fight for me. Yule is already out of the game, so Gabby's done her help and whatnot. Tom is out of the game. She's forgiven Tom and Aiden over the Ellie vote out, right? It's like Gabby didn't have a lot going for her anymore. Like, I think having a floaty winner is the cardinal sin of this genre. After all, the Wayne stuff. So, I mean, like, I think that people just like Gabby, which is fine. I like Gabby. Gabby's cool, but like, I think that if she won, it would have been kind of floaty, I guess. Give her a storyline next time. Well, she did, and it just ended episodes ago. Episode 15 was one that I did not think of when I first read it, but then, like, I think a few days before the episode came out, I reread it, and I was like, this is one of a very powerful episode. It's a lie detector sort of episode. Lots of secrets are revealed. Big moments. Big flip from Allie. She really stands her ground individually. She's like, nope, judge me all you want. I voted for Aiden. Screw you, Jake. It would have been you if you didn't win immunity. I thought that was pretty neato burrito. I thought that Rhea and Allie have been building up for episodes now, 12 and 14. So to see it finally work out, after all, the two have the trajectory with fame and reputation and whatnot. Two sides of the same coin, kind of. It was pretty interesting to see Allie's descent, I guess? Not derailment, descent, okay? Like, I don't understand what negative character development means. Like, that just means that character has flaws. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, someone tell me what you guys mean by negative character development. I don't know what that means. Like, I want characters to go through arcs and storylines. Maybe I'm just classic and old-fashioned, but, like, that appeals to me when characters overcome their flaws. But yeah, I don't know. Episode 50, and I thought was pretty great. I think that it has a lot of things going for it, a lot of lies, a lot of intensity. Aiden reveals his big trump card. Oh my god, Rhea and Alec kissed, and everyone's like, who gives a shit? I don't care. Or was that last episode? That might have been last episode. That was last episode. Dang it. I don't know. Yeah, no, I mean, you have that cute moment where Jake and Aiden do the fist bump, and I think that's super representative of how far they've come. This is one of the things that I think is actually weakened on rewatch, because that was only, like, maybe 2 hours ago, as opposed to, like, 3 months ago. So I think that's actually weakened on a binge watch. But, no, yeah, just to see, just to see all that pan out, and the strategy going into that vote, and Gret being like, hey, look, Alec, you could have defended me against Yule, and all that. Very good stuff, very good stuff. I'm going to put it A tier. I can't put an... Am I going to put an S tier? I don't think it's an S tier episode, but it's still a pretty great one. I'm going to put it in a high A tier. It's pretty great. 16 is another episode I have a problem with. I don't think it's a bad episode. I just think it's kind of a meh episode. I think Alec going, he kind of goes out on a whimper, which I guess is representative of how, in the first few episodes he's the big bad, but then because of Connor's return and realizing his sins with his family and his friends and all that, it really starts to hit him, and he really becomes kind of pathetic by the end game. He gets idled out. Gret pulls a pretty sneaky move. Good on Gret. Allie gets sus of it all. The challenge is kind of... I mean, I'm happy Gret won an immunity. It's pretty great to see her... Oh, I forgot the fucking pull-up scene in episode 15. Yeah, that's what I was forgetting. I don't know, episode... I'm forgetting stuff. Yeah, the big Jake moment in episode 14 as well. Again, sorry, I haven't binged these episodes. I really haven't. I haven't rewatched these episodes in a while. But, yeah, no, what I liked about the Michael episodes is the ending scenes were just so powerful. You had the Jake and Connor talk, which, just for that, I'm putting it here. I think it's still C tier, but it's still great. No, you know what? Low B tier. That's what he gets. And then, of course, the pull-up scene, which I'm going to put low S tier for that, just for that. But yeah, episode 16, on the other hand, I like the scene with the perfume. I liked Alec and Connor getting together and having a drink, but I think the perfume bottle scene with Rhea was just pretty great to see how how Connor and Rhea had really evolved. Obviously, it's like, why are you asking me for the perfume bottle? All right, have you seen it? How you've done? All right, you're not good. Stop it. Yeah, you have to prove it. You can't just pretend that it's all good, right? And I think just for that, that is what elevates. Okay, that will elevate it above episode 7. No, you know what? Low C tier. Like, it's borderline a D, but I think that there is stuff of substance. It's not super flashy, and I will admit it's something that could have used a lot of work. It's probably the most forgettable post-merge episode, but it's one that I look back and I'm like, okay, there's some good stuff there. Episode 17, on the other hand, I think, personally, is also kind of overhated. I do think that when you don't know the direction, when you think, oh, Connor's going to be the superhero and will save Rhea from evil, and Jake and Allie will be well, I mean, that's what happens. Jake and Allie do end up being friends. And then you look at it from the perspective of Gret is robbed. I don't think Gret was robbed, because the winner of the season was always going to be, big bad evilness, right? Or maybe not always, but that's what it was going towards. The big bad wins the season. Winning isn't everything. You're the villain. How dare you? You're an awful person. So I don't think Gret could have won in this universe. That's not the story we were trying to tell. And I think that was evident around this point. I do, it's a shocking boot, but I don't think it was there for shock value. I don't think it was there just for the sake of getting Gret. Gret is too likable. I like how the Final Four are just all controversial characters. They don't deserve to be there. They're all the bigger, they're so frustrating. Again, Connor says it, it isn't about who deserves it, it's about who wants it the most. And I think, Rhea fought for it and burned all her bridges to win it. But yeah, no, the challenge is pretty interesting. I don't think it's, amazing, but yeah, the horses were cool. I like some of the shots this episode were beautiful. Connor, the slow-mo thing on the horse, and then the camera stuff. And I think at the time people are like, oh, what the heck, where was this Rhea? Yeah, the nice Rhea, didn't really exist, all right? It was a facade. It was there, but, she kept on using it as an excuse to avoid criticism and whatnot. Yeah, no, I mean, again, I don't hate Gret, but I don't like her nearly as much as most people do. This season did, a lot of work, though, that makes me like Gret a lot more. But, I never was in the boat of, yes, Gret needs to win. In my opinion, I think a Gret win would have been so obvious. I was scared that it was going to happen when I was proofreading it. I was like, oh, is Gret going to win? I'm happy she didn't, because that would have made it a little too predictable. And, if you want to watch a show that's predictable, just watch a sitcom. Watch, Full House or something. That's the one I always use whenever I'm like, oh, if you want everything to go your way, watch Full House. I don't know why, I've never seen Full House. But yeah, I am going to put it, I can't in good faith put it in A tier. I don't think it's that good. But I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm going to put it above, I'll put it here. I think that this episode will age when you binge watch it with the context of what you know, and you rewatch it and you realize that we're not setting up Connor redeeming Rhea and Rhea realizing I'm not a bad person. Everyone forgives her and they all hug and everything's fine and dandy. I think that this is really the big turning point where Rhea becomes unredeemable. Episode 18, this is one that I don't know why this one's... Okay, I think I know why, because this one heavily focuses on DC2 characters, Connor, Allie, and Rhea. I think it's fun. I think the challenge is super fun. It's in the rain. They got the, you gotta dress up the mannequins and whatnot. I do think that Connor's quit is a bit, anticlimactic for some people that are really into the politics of this fictional show. But, I think it's extremely symbolic and representative and innovative because of how Connor and Rhea started. And to see it really come back in the end, where instead of Connor quitting to save Rhea, he's doing it to screw over Rhea, just shows, no, we're past the point of redemption. They're not getting back together, guys. Come on, let's not be Delulu here. Yeah, no, I love the challenge. I loved Connor and Allie bonding. I thought that was something that, I'm so happy for Ordarts, who, these are his two characters, to see the bond between Allie's dead grandpa and Connor, who wants munchkins. He wants grandchildren and whatnot. Or I guess not grandchildren, maybe just normal children. I don't know, it just makes me happy to see, Allie and Connor acknowledging their past, and yeah, some of that context is lost if you don't remember DC2 that well, but, this was the season that I got to experience live, so to see these two characters that you didn't really think much of in DC2 actually come to this important, pivotal bond is great. Now, I get it, right, I get it. The scene with the game, Connor should have just told Allie, hey, it wasn't Jake, it was Rhea. And to see, again, like, yeah, Jake, quote unquote, is derailed. I don't think that's the case. I think that, like, no one grows perfectly. If we were in a world where it takes one lesson to, like, become a perfect human being, or to grow from all your mistakes and never make a mistake ever again, I want to live in that world. That world sounds awesome. Like, it's not reality, but, like, that's a cool fictional world to live in. And I like that. It's really, like, it really tests both Jake and Allie. Are you guys really that impulsive that you're stooping down to Rhea's level? And it's like, that's the big journey for both of them in episodes 20 and 21. Are we really that petty? Are we going to stoop down to Rhea's level? And the answer is no. Both Jake and Allie don't stoop down to that level, but I think this episode instills a lot of fear, where it's like, why are we doing this again? Why are we doing this thing again? Like, this arc, we don't need it again. I disagree. I think that this really sets the stakes for the finale. I love episode 18. I don't think it's, like, my favorite episode. I'm going to put it here. It used to be, like, up top. And I think it has a lot of good stuff going for it, but people have brought up fair criticisms, and I think it is lower now, but I'm still going to put an S tier. I really do love this episode. As a DC2 fan, again, very, very biased. Very biased. Episode 19, I think it's a little overrated, but it's still very good. A lot of people probably want more of this, where the characters are just having a good time. You can't really do that with a show where there's betrayals and lies and backstabbing, and you gotta vote each other out, of course. That's not really what this show is for, especially the thesis statement, that being of, the villain wins, right? It's dark and scary, but a lot of characters, Tom, Hunter, Ellie, really come into their own. You realize that they care more, and now that they're outside the game, they can really function as human beings, especially getting to reflect on the journey so far. I think it's kind of funny that Jake, or not Jake, James is still kind of bitter. I think that's kind of funny. But, and the challenge itself is very fun. You get to see a lot of fun interactions. Fiore, Yule, and James being the helpers, probably not what people expected. It's only for episode 20 and not 21. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think anyone saw that coming. The three, like, comic relief characters are brought into the spotlight. I like Yule's, like, fake redemption arc, where you realize, nope, he's just an irredeemable asshole. He's not getting better. Gret, Gabby, and Ellie all being, friends here. It's really sort of fun. Trying to think what else. I love the Hunter and Tess scenes. No one really ever talks about it. But the Hunter and Tess scenes this episode, again, super biased, but I love them so much. The three characters, Hunter, Tess, and Allie, mean so much to me, man. It's great. Fiora and Alec were really cute in this episode, too. They had, like, a very wholesome friendship. I don't know. Lots of great stuff in this episode. Lots of great stuff. I am going to put this episode... Like, I know for a lot of people, it really helped redeem a lot of the earlier boots of the season, where they're like, oh, you just ended their stories really abruptly. No, we didn't. We were waiting till the end. That's how arcs work. Maybe not in this genre, but in most stories, that's how arcs work. I am going to say, a little overrated of an episode. I'm going to put it here. Yeah, I'm going to put it here. I think 9 and 10 have a lot more going for it, because they're, like, actually within the competition. But I think for an episode that is, mostly Motel, it really does a lot of heavy lifting for 20 and 21. Again, I think a lot of people had the expectations that it was going to be like Hot Campshire or whatever, the final 5 episode where Lashana gets voted out in TDI. And it's like, no, that episode is mostly just, having a good time in fillery. This episode, I feel like, carries a lot of weight in terms of the characters and their dynamics and how they've grown, right? So yeah, this was always going to be, like, a very important episode. 20, I think, gets a lot of hate for, like, no reason. And I think it's because it's an episode that mostly features the DC2 characters. And I think when you view it in the context of, oh, Allie's dead. That's it. Allie is gone. Wow. Not so great, but Allie does more in 21. Makes up with Hunter and then helps Jake out in the end. I really like this episode, especially someone who never thought Allie would be, like, basically the main character of the second to last episode of the DC trilogy. That's insane. We get to see Jake and Allie bonding over their dead grandparents, which I think is one of the most powerful scenes in any of this stuff. I know a lot of... There's a bit of controversy about Jake implying that he had suicidal thoughts over it, but I do think the scene with the letter really just shows how dastardly Rhea is, and I know I've said that multiple times now, but, like, it was just like, that's too far, Rhea. Come on, that is way too far. Holy shit. Getting to see Allie and Rhea really come into their own, especially with the help of James and Fiore, who, they're just the comic relief characters. I thought this was a very pleasant episode. It was very intense. I love Allie's little, the reason you suck speech to Rhea, where she says, no, I don't care if win pisses people off. I'm here for me. It's kind of interesting. A lot of people, like, were devastated Allie went home because, just a few weeks ago when this episode came out, people really did not like Allie. They were like, Allie's irredeemable. I hope she dies. It's like, what? So yeah, obviously perception is always changing, and I'm excited to see how these things age. I think 20 and 21 Even 21 for 20 really helped a lot of people realize the context, and I think DC All-Stars is slowly beginning to heal. But yeah, this is just like a snapshot for any future viewers. DC All-Stars is a lot more controversial than what you may think. Same with DC1 and DC2, but I feel like DC1 and DC2 were unreported because there weren't really many YouTubers at the time, or the fandoms were a lot less vocal. I don't know, episode 20 is one that I'm like, I like this episode. I really like this episode. I'm gonna put it here. Like, it used to be up here, but now it's like here. I think episode 20 really comes into its own. I've really grown appreciation for 9 and 10, and that's probably because I've had more months to really, process it. But I really like 9 and 10. I think they kind of the underdogs here. So yeah, 20 is an episode that I adore. For the Ali and Rhea stuff, but even like some of the James and Yule stuff is just really funny and interesting to see how far we've come. I think that's the appealing nature that might get lost in translation, is just to see how far these characters have come over the course of like watching the show for 2 years, and I think that's really great. So yeah, I mean, Ali's elimination could have been handled a bit better. I think the fake out probably didn't need to do that. Yeah, no, I mean, when you go into this last stretch of episodes and you're under the assumption that Jake is going to win and it's all going to be fine and dandy and like everyone will praise him and Rhea will be sad and then Connor will forgive her, it's a lot worse. But then you see the actual payoff. You get to see the actual story being set up. And I think 21 is the greatest episode of the season. I don't think that's a secret. I think that a lot of stuff happens. Alec, and Fiore kind of coming to each other's defense and going against Rhea. Ellie and Gabby having their moment where she stands up to her and they realize, no, I care about you, Gabby. Fuck the money. You're awesome. All sorts of stuff. Connor really digging into Rhea. Just a lot of powerful things in this episode. Rhea wins, but at what cost? And that epilogue, man, it's so good. That epilogue, those final scenes where like it feels like the cameras are off. You won. Now what? Now what are you gonna do? It's so good. It's so good, man. And like even the Hunter and Tess and Ali scene at the beginning, again, like it's a little underwhelming that Hunter and Tess's last lines are in the beginning of the episode, but like I like it. I think that everything really culminated to this episode, and I think it's a very DC1 focused episode. I'll give it that. That's like a lot of the DC1 characters are important to this episode. I think every single one is, except Gret. But, and I can see why a fandom that is majority DC1 fans will like this more. But like I'm happy that 2021 appealed to both DC2 fans and DC1 fans. And by DC2 fans, I mean like the few of us that exist. There's dozens of us. But yeah, no, I don't really know what to say. I think 21 is the perfect finale. It's very, maybe not subversive, but I don't think that's the goal. I think it was always to deconstruct this genre and to see like, yeah, sometimes bad people win. You guys wanted a villain win. There you go. That's what it would be like. It's not going to be, oh, the villain won last minute and that's the only like change. No, of course there's going to be loads and loads of setup where we show like the villain getting their karma. She won, but at what cost? What else is there to say? I just think this is a very beautiful episode. I really think that. I mean, I wish that in 19, 20, and 21 there was one Tess Ellie interaction, but other than that, I think that this end stretch of the season very strong, and it really makes everything age a lot better, in my opinion. So here's my tier list. Again, very, very biased. There's only one A tier episode. That's interesting. You know what? I'm gonna add another tier. I think this is fair. I'm not gonna call it SS for obvious reasons, but I will call it like S+. Let's make it gray. We'll call it the S+ tier, and I think this episode goes there. This, and this. I think episode 20 barely misses the mark, for me at least. But these are like top 5 episodes, in my opinion. These are episodes that I cherish very fondly, and like, you know what? Even if you aren't a fan of the boot order or the themes of the season, that's fine. That's okay. We can have different opinions. But like, I don't think the season is anywhere near as bad as most of the vocal haters make it out to be. Even if you disagree with a lot of stuff, I think that there's just a lot of like cool stuff, even for people that aren't like me, who are proofreaders and also more so DC2 fans. I think there's a lot to enjoy, and I love this season. I think this is by far my favorite DC season. I don't want to compare it to Total Drama. I feel like they're two very different shows. I feel like they have two very different goals in mind. So it's like, what is better, this or Total Drama World Tour? I don't know. I don't want to compare. I think that's like comparing like, oh, what's better, Gravity Falls or regular show? It's like, I don't know. They have different stuff going for them. But yeah, thank you for watching my very long and rambly tier list. hope you've stuck around the whole way. Again, if there's something you disagree with, please let me know. Just don't be toxic about it. Be respectful about it. Don't be passive-aggressive and all that. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'm excited for DC4. There will be more content in the near future. And yeah, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.